generation I'm in, we have such a massive upper hand because I've been able to learn so much from YouTube.
I'm a firm believer in like, yes, pursue your passions, do what you love, but at the same time, you have to put food on your table. You need to provide for yourself.
Knowing what you do well and quite honestly exploiting that to maximize your compensation is key.
Hello and welcome to Real Talk, a monthly show by Rewriting the Code and hosted by myself, Mayuko. In each episode, we invite you, people from every corner of the RTC community, to join us and have real conversations about helping more women into the tech career of their dreams. Each episode will premiere live on the Rewriting the Code YouTube channel, so make sure to subscribe and interact with us in the live chat. And make sure to comment down below your thoughts on today's episode as you watch it. The theme of today's episode is money as it relates to a career in technology. It's no secret that having a tech career pays well, so it's common for many people to view the tech pay as a pro of this career path. The type of money that tech can afford to pay people helps build financial stability and sometimes even generational wealth too. So, how does money actually play a role in the lives of people in the RTC community, and how has it affected their careers? Money in and out of the RTC community is a hot topic in the industry overall. So, I'm excited to share the thoughts, perspectives, and worries about today's theme from myself and members of the RTC community in today's episode. So at the beginning of each episode, we'll hear from students in the RTC community. We'll learn about how they got into technology, what's been on their mind, and thoughts on today's theme. Today's guests are Sydney and Ledo.
My name's Sydney. I'm a junior at Duke. I'm taking the semester off studying computer science and minoring in biology.
I'm Ledo. I'm a senior at Drexel University studying computing and security technology with a minor in human-computer interaction.
So my journey started freshman year of college. I was completely unfamiliar with computer science. I originally thought I was going to be pre-med. I had one free class to take my first semester of college, and I was like, this is a new place, whole new life experience. I want to step entirely out of my comfort zone and try computer science. It threw me for a loop. I did terribly at first. Nothing made sense. I didn't know anyone who worked in tech, and I didn't know anyone from back home who even knew what programming was. Suddenly, somehow things just started clicking for me. The ability to program is built over time by kind of almost rewiring your brain because it's such a different way to apply critical thinking. I think once I kind of built that muscle up and I gained confidence here and there over time, I realized it was interesting and that I had the potential to continue learning and improving. Suddenly, I was a CS major.
My first year, I came into Drexel as a biomedical engineering major on a pre-med track. So again, my plan was to eventually go to medical school after college, but I wanted to also be in a path that would allow me to at least get a job if I didn't, eventually get into medical school directly. I've always loved the sciences and that's always what I've been exposed to, but I was like, this is not what I want to do. Like, I don't see myself being in school for the next 13, 14 years. What I really wanted to do was really, really specific. So I was like, okay, this is not what I want to do. So there was one term I just dedicated that term to just really exploring different options within the university. When I heard about the College of Computing and Informatics, I was like, okay, this is interesting. The only technical background I had was just learning basic HTML. But even at that, I really enjoyed that. But again, no one ever told me I could do something with it. So it was really just that curiosity with, okay, what is really in tech? Like, how come no one has ever told me about this? That was really what drove me to finding out, what this field had for me. Tried a few CS courses and I realized I was more interested in security, knowing that I really loved something that was dynamic, something that was going to allow me to, learn different things and learn it quickly. I haven't looked back ever since.
I have divorced parents, and for a really long time, my mom was a single mom and money was really tight for us. Never knew anything about having a college fund or being prepped financially to go to school. I always envisioned myself going to college, but the idea of financials and how to afford it, I had to start processing where I wanted to apply, learning about financial aid, and just doing the work myself to become educated on how I could make college possible for myself. Ultimately, it came down to financial aid being a massive factor in where I decided to go to school, and then also just being realistic about having to save money from summer jobs, internships, and then also take out student loans. It's been a whole process of educating myself on how I'm able to put myself through school independently from a finance standpoint.
Honestly, growing up, I knew money existed, but I never really often thought about it. For the longest time, I've always been someone that just was content with whatever I had. As long as I had the basic necessities like food, water, shelter, that was okay for me. Getting into college now, my applications for college, I was very, very aware of money because, again, as an international student, I knew that I didn't have all the loans or all the funding available to me. I unfortunately did not get a full ride, so I was very aware of that burden that was going to be on my family if I chose to attend Drexel. I've been very grateful to have parents who really, had provided for me and really helped me in so many ways, but it felt like I needed to be proactive in trying to get funding to ease that burden off of them. So I mentioned earlier how I really love diversity and inclusion, and I didn't realize then that what was me just trying to help people and see more people like me was actually going to pave the way for me getting money. All the scholarships I got from tech companies like Adobe, Google, Microsoft, Palantir, VMware, and Cadence were all diversity scholarships that were kind of recognizing me for the work I had done promoting diversity and inclusion. That was, a really big part. And then kind of getting into internships now, where being an international student with no family here, I really had to grow up quickly. I had to think about, making appointments and, really budgeting, okay, how much is going to go for my rent and how much is going to go for other expenses that I had. When I think about college now and just post-grad life and adulting, I'm not as scared because I've kind of been forced to get used to it over the last 4 or 5 years of college. I wouldn't say it was a major factor for me. It was something I later got to know about, kind of going back to freshman year, trying to figure out what I was trying to do. I think and this has kind of always been my philosophy, is I kind of let my passion or my curiosity fuel me, and then I figure out what else is in that field for me as I go on. At that time, I think the buzz of tech and IT wasn't as loud as it is now. For me, it was just out of curiosity. When I eventually got to, start talking to people more, using LinkedIn, connecting with people, I really got to see that this field has so many prospects. Because I'm a firm believer in yes, pursue your passions, do what you love, but at the same time, you have to put food on your table. You need to provide for yourself if you have, responsibilities, dependents, so on and so forth. So as much as I really wanted to do what I loved and what I found interesting, I also wanted to ensure that, all the money that my parents and several organizations had invested in me towards my education, I could also be in the field and, eventually graduate and be in a role that would allow me to kind of get that return on investment.
I would say definitely. I mentioned considering being pre-med, and I think a big part of the deterring factors was the cost of med school. And as I was getting more into computer science and learning about the tech industry and different opportunities, it just started to make more sense that was worth learning more about, if not pursuing, especially after learning about how much you can make by working in tech, even just for a summer as an intern. Something that I really like about big tech companies in particular, I know a lot of startups offer great benefits too, but non-salary benefits that help you live your life in a way that's more enjoyable. I've weighed this lightly considering the point I'm at in my life right now, being that I'm a young woman, but I want to kind of have some foresight into how I might go about planning to have a family while maintaining a career. When I worked at Microsoft last summer, they have a program where you can itemize itemize up to $400 per quarter for anything health related. And little things like that, they add up. It's obviously very important to work a job with a good salary, but I don't want to negate the other factors that also contribute to life improvement, because obviously money is important, but if I feel like a company actually cares about my well-being, I'm gonna feel far more inclined to invest myself in their mission and in whatever team I'm on at their company.
Honestly, I feel very overwhelmed. There's so many things wrap my head around. I remember vividly talking to my recruiter, like having a very honest conversation with her. Like, look, this money I'm about to get, I'm not even sure what to do with it. Like, can I like talk to you one-on-one to see how you navigated your financial life? So I'm trying not to like sit in that feeling of overwhelmingness, but really trying to like, okay, reach out now. But yeah, I would say definitely feeling overwhelmed. But at the same time, I think something that's really helping me is understanding that I don't need to know everything at once, right? Just having like a basic understanding and then building up from there. I really haven't been able to do this yet, but practically like steps that I want to take is, dedicating some time, whether that's every day or every other day, or even weekly, to like watching YouTube videos. What's behind this thing? What's behind investing? What's the stock market all about? Things like that. Yeah, really just trying to push beyond that feeling of being overwhelmed and really trying to seek that knowledge.
Being in the generation I'm in, we have such a massive upper hand because I've been able to learn so much from YouTube. Just Googling salary negotiation for women in tech, you can find so many results that are lend to really useful learnings. I'm really grateful that even though I don't have experience negotiating a salary, I know that I have at least an understanding that that's important to do in the first place. But yeah, I do feel prepared given the fact that there are a lot of resources out there in communities like RTC.
See your career as a journey and not a destination. And I think honestly, this applies to not just your career, this applies to just life, right? Back in my freshman year, I had this obsession, or okay, maybe I won't use the word obsession, but like there was this urge to arrive at a place, whether that was okay, get this one dream company, or get this one achievement, or arrive at a certain place and think that was it. As I've learned from people, been exposed to different opportunities and experiences, I get to see that life keeps evolving and I keep evolving as well. More specifically within my career, I'm not striving endlessly to just arrive at like a dream role or a dream company. Like where I'm at now is where I need to be, and 6 months from now I could be in a different place. So just being comfortable with knowing that there's no need to figure everything out now. I'm allowed to change and my interests are allowed to change and I'm allowed to evolve with that as well.
To take time along whatever path you choose to follow, just for yourself, whether that may be taking a semester off or a period between jobs. I have been told so many times that it's so helpful to recalibrate where you're currently at. And I think that ties into just being self-reflective and really intentional with how you choose to live your life and spend your time. Taking this semester off for me now, even though I'm still working, I have more free time now than I would if I were like actually studying the semester. Even the free time I've been allowed by working a full-time job right now has been really helpful in a spiritual way, I think, and that almost sounds dramatic, but I think it holds true. So just taking breaks whenever possible and not rushing. I feel like I've even seen people who get so obsessed with achieving a very specific career goal or academic goal that they kind of get lost in the sauce. It's too much effort and energy into this one singular goal that you miss out on a lot of other aspects of life.
So, today's topic is about money and how it relates to a career in technology. When I was choosing a major in college and trying to figure out what kind of post-grad life I wanted, financial stability was a huge goal for me. My parents always told me that no matter what I chose to do in life, they really encouraged me to find a career where I could help people and also something that could afford me financial stability post-graduation. So when I found computer science and software engineering, I was ecstatic to hear that most roles paid quite well right after graduation without any additional schooling. And throughout my career and my adult life, I'm happy to say that a career in technology definitely did help me build the financial stability I was looking for. My salary increased with every job that I went to, and additional compensation benefits like 401ks and RSUs and stock options have come in handy. But let's be real. When you're first faced with the challenge of figuring out your financial situation, it can feel like a huge wall has been presented in front of you. How do you know how much your skills are worth? How much is too much to pay for rent? How does student loan interest work? What's a 401k and what does it mean for a company to match? How do you budget in a way that allows you to live your life in the present but also sets you up for success in the future? How do you negotiate a salary in a way that won't offend the company? There's a lot to learn all at once, and it feels like the stakes are high because it has to do with money, which translates to your livelihood. Once that first paycheck comes through, what do you actually do with it? How do you know that you're putting your money in all the right places, and how do you make sure you're even being compensated fairly to begin with? Personally, I learned about all these things along the way from close friends and colleagues, as well as online resources. When I was first embarking on this journey of financial stability and independence, I knew that first and foremost, I needed to make sure I was being paid fairly for my skills. Multiple studies in gender pay gaps across all industries in the United States reports that in 2022, women are paid 83 cents on the dollar compared to men. And when it comes to the tech industry, a 2021 impact report by Hired reported that 59% of the time, men were offered higher salaries than women for the same job title at the same company in 2020, and that companies offer women 2.5% less on average than men for the same roles. The data is also varied based on city, race, age, and education level too. So, in order to navigate this as an individual, I knew that I needed to know how much my male peers were making at similar companies, similar roles, with similar levels of experience to make sure that I was getting compensated fairly. Having open and honest conversations with my friends, as well as online tools like levels.fyi, really helped too. I also chose to interview at companies that had a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, since my assumption was that those companies who had those commitments tended to pay their employees who were underrepresented more fairly than those who didn't. And once I knew what my worth was, it was a matter of negotiating my offers to get me there. This is no doubt a really scary process, and some would characterize it as an art more than a science, but I've got some really helpful tips on my own YouTube channel about salary negotiation, where I talk to a salary negotiation expert and former recruiter about how to negotiate your salary and what to say and how to say it, which I will link right here. After that, it was just a matter of choosing the offer that I felt like I could most benefit from in terms of compensation and the work itself. Now, everyone's going to make a different choice on employers based on their own personal situation, so I think it's really valuable to reflect on what's important to you right now, as well as what will be in the next few years, to make sure that the job's going to be a good fit for you and your life. This process is going to be brand new to you when you do it for the first time for your first ever full-time role, but you're going to do it over and over again every single time you jump to a new role. And I'd venture to say it does get easier every time because you've had the practice from previous jobs and you've also gained a lot of confidence in your own skills and value. Other than the salary itself, there's also a lot of other components to compensation, so you can ask your recruiter or your hiring manager or your colleagues on more information about how all that works. And trust me, most people in tech need multiple explanations about how a 401k works or how stock options work or how employee stock purchase plans work, so don't worry, you won't look stupid by asking these questions over and over again. And then in terms of how you're going to spend your money, well, that really depends on what you want your life to look like. Maybe you've got some student loans, or you're paying off a boot camp, or maybe you're supporting some family members. Maybe you want to live in a high-rise apartment in San Francisco, or you want to travel abroad once a year, or you're saving up to buy a really expensive and powerful gaming computer. I think it's important to also think about things on the daily, like are you going to eat out often, or are you going to cook at home more? I really just recommend doing these projections of what you want your life to look like, both in the short term and the long term, to decide how you want to use your money. When I was starting out, I made a spreadsheet for all of my projected monthly expenses, as well as all of my savings goals, which at the time were things like paying off my student loans, getting a dog, moving up to the Bay Area, and going to Japan. Then it was just a matter of checking in monthly to see if my projections were correct, and then adjust my spending and budgeting accordingly. And luckily, in this day and age, there's tons of resources out there on how to spend your money wisely. YouTube channels, social media accounts, books, apps, and even conferences provide really valuable financial information. And so if there's any that are your favorite, then leave them in the comments down below. The last thing I'll leave you with is something that my colleagues told me when I was at my very first job about finances. And it's that it's definitely worth starting early. A lot of them told me their regrets on not contributing to retirement early or not staying on top of their budgeting. And so they told me that it's always really worth the time and effort to figure out your financial situation to help you live the life that you want. In our next part, we invite someone from the RTC community on the industry side to give insight on what's going on in their world. We'll also find out about their journey into technology, their thoughts on today's topic, and advice for those following in their footsteps. Today, our guest is Tia White.
So my name is Tia White. I am a general manager at AWS, Amazon Web Services. I always kind of gravitated towards fields and studies that touched on math and science. I thought I wanted to be a doctor until I had a conversation with my cousin who's a pediatrician and found out how much education it took. So I had this different path for myself. My family, while fortunate in some ways, also came from very humble beginnings. I'd be lying if I didn't say the financial stability and generational wealth I could create was super attractive to me. So when I went to college, one of the advisors said, "Have you ever thought about computer science or computer engineering?" And that's how I started this journey. I was the only one out of my immediate graduating undergrad that stayed at one company longer than 5 years. People asked me, "Why do you stay? Like, you could leave and double, triple your income." And I think I was a bit naive to that. When I said, "Yes, I'm interested in being contacted on LinkedIn," floodgates opened. Microsoft, Capital One, and other companies all reached out. Ultimately, I did not choose the highest paying offer I received. I have always balanced compensation with what's going to work best for me at that time. My dad had cancer. Capital One found an opportunity that was close enough that I could drive to my parents' house, and it paid well. It allowed me to reinvent myself. It quadrupled my market value, and I was looking for more. So again, put myself in the market. And again, I didn't choose the best paid job because the leader I went to work for was phenomenal. It was right after the murder of George Floyd. And so I was uber conscious about a company and organization's culture being a Black woman. I was one, if not the only, engineering Black women hired at that level. And all the CIOs really wanted to do the work, and they were creating a very inclusive culture, so it felt like home to me. Then I went through a separation, became a single mom. Probably for the first time in my career, I needed more stability than ever. And I landed at AWS. So what I look at now is, what do I lack? What is the brand recognition of the company, or even I considered startups? And what will double and quadruple my value in the market in the least amount of time? I'm going to invest in the company. How does it help my marketability and the value for hiring and retaining me as an employee or an executive of the company? One, I realized how important the brand recognition of the company is. So you have to understand, where do you want to take your career? If you are a person that is okay with the status quo, find a company that you feel like you can bring your whole self to work in and just ride it out. That's not who I am. Company and who you affiliate yourself with will dilute or add to your value, and it can maximize your return on your investment of your time. Two, the field that you're in. I started paying attention where the tech trends were. Capital One said, "Hey, we're going to stand up a risk finance audit ML organization. We'd love for you to lead it." I took that head on, took courses at MIT, took Coursera courses, taught myself how to code in Python. I seized that opportunity to invest in myself because I saw my return on investment. Lastly, I think you have to know your distinct competitive advantage. I deliver results because of my bias for action and ability to quickly process information to make decisions. better than most. Knowing my expertise in domain and going deep in something that's cutting edge adds to what I'm worth. Knowing what you do well and quite honestly exploiting that to maximize your compensation is key. Be you, be authentic. I went through so much of my career morphing into what companies and people wanted me to be. I didn't realize how exhausting it was and how it actually impacted my productivity. I would code switch based on what I felt was needed to fit in culturally for a company or a group or with the customer. It's ironic, Diane taught me this. She gave me feedback. I was up for promotion. I didn't get the promotion. I was going through a lot of things in life. My dad's cancer became terminal and I was not aware of how I was showing up, but I was showing up in a way that I thought people wanted me to show up. And it was coming through, it's inauthentic. So she said, if you show people who you really are, one, you're not draining all your energy. And two, people will love it because I love it and I see it every day. And I started understanding the company culture, but really being my authentic self. I wore my hair natural for some time. I dressed the way I wanted to dress. I used the language I wanted to use. If I didn't feel like doing something, I said no. I was, number one, culturally aware of what was required for the company. And within that, I brought my whole self to work. I took off my mask and my cape, as I like to call it. And it's the best thing I did. And I got more promotions after that. I was more successful after that. I gained more work friends after that and tremendous opportunities. And so it paid off.
And that's our show. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Real Talk. Share with others what you learned, resonated with, or were inspired by tagging us on social media at Rewriting the Code and using the hashtag RTCRealTalk. And make sure to subscribe to this channel to get next month's episode. And if you'd like to learn more about Rewriting the Code, which empowers the next generation of college women to be leaders, then make sure to check out rewritingthecode.org. I'm Mayuko, and I'll see you next time. Bye!